What is that? Owl? All right, we don't need to listen to that leopard. Let's kill that. All right, we'll call, good afternoon, everyone. We'll call this meeting the Capital Program Committee order. It's June 16th at just 3:10. Get a motion for the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carries unanimously. There are no members on Zoom and no members of the public. For public comment, this meeting is being audio video recorded. Anything you say or share will be displayed accordingly. If there's any votes, we'll just voice vote.
And without me.
And without Brooke, who I am sad to say is moving on to other ways to contribute to the community.
Up is not necessarily true.
Well,
Well, from Cap,
necessarily better.
And Dawn will be our new member.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
There you go.
Was this your last meeting, technically, or?
I'm off, so I'm here just to close the loop.
Gotcha.
But I won't vote on anything.
Gotcha.
And as of last night, I'm now on it. Well, I'm not actually on NPNEC yet because I have to be. No, I don't know. It's county commissioner's appointment at NPNEC. So
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
let me keep seconds. It's better than the vineyard, though.
Yeah.
All those select boards and.
Okay, guys, so we have on the agenda plum enhancements to wrap up and the Capcom schedule. So, oh, and to establish a capital on the agenda. Capital programming. I think let's leave it at a capital programming processes work group. Software and processes work group. That covers it all. The idea there is that if we continue on, for instance, I'll be meeting with finance once we hear back from Plum, who will be giving us an idea of cost and timeline to implement our enhancements. And if you need to have a quick meeting and we can't have a quorum, we can still act a quorum of the full membership. If we have a work group, we could have a 3-member. If there's 2 members who show up, we have a quorum, we can not to move forward without participation, but if folks can't show up, we give material to them in advance, and they can always chime in and act accordingly. So that's the idea behind that. If no one has any concerns about it or comments, I will ask for a motion to establish the capital program software and processes work group consisting of 3 members, noting if any other member would like to attend a certain. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Oh, okay. That moves us to the enhancements.
Do you have to actually appoint certain people?
For a work group?
Well, appointing or just.
My understanding listed with the select board meeting is that it can be a work group that is established and it's kind of ad hoc. I'm going with at the moment that we need to meet the quorum rules. One, we need to post because we're not a work group created by the town admin. So as capital program, we're going to need to post the meeting. So we observe open meeting. And 2, we have a 3-member work group. We have to have at least 2 people to capital programs happen.
Right, but the 3 members have to be identified. You can't just have a floating group. As far as I know.
When we mentioned the concept and Sue suggested okay to put it on, we need to address it. We will. I'll check.
Okay.
At this point, the idea of establishing members is a defeatist type of a approach because the whole idea is that we don't know who's available in advance. So,
Suggest you double check.
oh, certainly, no question.
With the open meeting scrutiny we've been experiencing, we don't want to run afoul of.
100% support that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now where we are is, I don't know to what extent, so what's going to happen with the enhancements? First of all, thank you all. A lot of work went into these over a very short period of time. I think they will make a a big difference. I'm gonna be obviously advocating to have all of these implemented prior to our start. And we've reviewed and reviewed and discussed these. I have not made modifications other than to the last two, which was our last meeting, which I would suggest what we do is I will provide this in a PDF to Sue for distribution to the membership. You guys can review it, have any comments, follow up. We do have a meeting scheduled next week, however, I don't know that we need it unless somebody has a material comment that we can't just address through Sue. Fair enough. When you get this was just the kind of a lead-in as to what we're trying to accomplish, what priority rankings were. I will add the priorities. I kind of took them out because at this point, they're all on the table, subject to cost and implementation timeline with software developer. But the notation here was for in that process. Austerity state. Anything that is a plum color has been is a reference, an enhancement, revision, note, or a comment. Anything here is plum related. Any comment that is plum colored has been forwarded to finance for the next step of the plum. That brings us down to reports, which are, I think, later in the season and something we might implement utilizing existing Excel reports. So it takes a load off plum for right now. I don't think there's really anything.
Barry is just an option.
Okay, good.
Good eye, Jim.
Let's see. Hello, Barry.
Howdy.
Okay, just want to let you know we see you. Let's see. So trust reports, new criteria and grouping. These were enhancements we identified to be implemented for hopefully FY 26-27, primarily because they involve a restructuring of the database, which is a significant undertaking. And when I say restructuring, all of the data tables and then each of the reports and any of the forms that data is input into will be affected by these changes. These will be in the document that's distributed. I would suggest for the sake of, well, does anyone have any questions? If you do, please read through them. Try to decrypt my notes and follow up. I'm happy to comment. Incremental funding. Basically what this boiled down to is stage funding and phase funding. And what I got out of this, Howard in particular, he brought this up, I thought it was good. Is the outcome is that we want to have an alphanumeric, we want to have a field input for the department head and finance within the SIP request form. It will be an input field that the department head can actuate, and then finance can determine whether they want to keep it or modify. That's their gig. And in addition, what that does is it allows for a sort feature at a later date and a search feature at a later date. Got it. Discrete data field tied to a category that's helpful for later on. For now, there will be a custom alpha where one of our enhancements is a custom alphanumeric code. So for instance, if a project came in without getting into the details of stage or phase yet, and it's a stage project or it's a phase project, there will be somewhere in the alphanumeric code a P or an S. And then you can just very quickly see that it's phased. A good example, I'm going to back into this. A good example of phased are the sidewalks. So the definition we've been using is funds key to a distinguishable aspect of a request where the capital project spans a greater than this single fiscal year. And what that boils down to is, for instance, DPW has a project, it's called sidewalks, and that's the distinguishable feature, and it comes back to us year after year. We could use recurring for that. but we've always used phased. Staged was funds key to a specific specifiable category, period, or step in a process or development under a particular request. The note was to ascertain the pros and cons of recommending stage funding because in certain instances procurement could come in to be an issue. An example of this would be, we'll go back to airport because that's where it came up. Right? Whether they're doing a housing development, a stage would be site development. A substage would be electrical, sewer, water. So that's where the notion came from those, unless, Howard, I'm mistaken any of this.
I think that you told me the definitions were different, but that works.
Okay, so we'll put in examples.
Yeah.
I think that's helpful.
Do you want to put in a definition for recurring too?
I was wondering what happened to recurring, and it could have been
Just so people understand what the other two are not.
D57. Oh, it's here. So this is actually my error, or certainly not infallible. These are iterative and other naming conventions. These are what will show up in the alphanumeric. Phased, recurring, supplemental, and then the error is that staged funding and phased funding refer to the funding of the project, not the status or nature of the project. Is that?
That's right.
Okay. And I didn't see it on that when I was working on this quickly last night. I had told that this was hidden. So now that I see it, so what we've done is we've bifurcated these things, I think necessarily, because one refers to the nature of the project and one refers to the nature of the funding of a project. So recurring is actually covered.
When you say the nature of the project, you mean the timing? Are we talking about timing?
More like
Multi-year?
a phased project.
How it's scheduled, milestones,
Yeah.
whether it's
Okay.
done in discrete pieces,
Okay.
that whether there's, overlapping or not, they're discrete.
And I will address this so that it is in part of our. Yeah.
So if something's not phased, recurring, or
Supplemental
supplemental, then everything else is new? It's a new ass?
or obsolete. Yeah, obsolescence was one that we added that is a little bit different. I just want to
It's a good
target it. That one's a little bit different, but it will be part of the alphanumeric code. If a request is new, unless it's on, it has to deal with the fact that the capital asset replaces an obsolete capital asset, it will have no additional alphanumeric coding. If it's new and there's nothing having to do with it being that particular request replacing an obsolete capital asset, it will just be a department head, the year, and then a code for the sequence that was put in.
Okay, so example, when the water department mentions that they want to replace all of our hydrants, and that's phased.
Yeah.
But they're replacing existing, so you would call that phased, or then what if they add?
But this is where we're gonna have some discretion and.
Cause that just would show
Yeah.
them numbers to make it more expensive, and then they add in more expensive payment for the old ones.
So it's gonna depend on the nature of the request. Is this I wanna go back to the sidewalks, because I think that's a little bit easier one to, we're all familiar with it. Sidewalks are recurring. And so they'll have an R. Now, technically, we could say they might be replacing something that's obsolete. Does it have an O or not? I think that level of granularity I wouldn't get into. And then let me use a different example. DPW comes in and they need a new dump truck. Actually, they need two new dump trucks. One of them is to replace an obsolete dump truck,
Right.
and one of them isn't. They'll have the same coding, DPW, fleet, however we code it, the year, dash, The first one, the first request was 001, it's not obsolete. The second request came in, that's 002. Somewhere in the alphanumeric for the second one, which is the one that's replacing an obsolete capital asset, there will be a call. Now, say they need to replace, silly example, but say they need to replace a dump truck every year. That could be the argument could be made that that's recurring. It's a bad example because of the nature of the asset, but you get the idea. We'll be able to plug in the P for phase, R for recurring, S for supplemental, and O for obsolete, just to give us a higher level view when we're just quickly looking at the requests. Go ahead.
So the truck was a good example because if one of them is becoming obsolete. Remember, we looked at a whole bunch of them all at one time. This will differentiate so that this,
They're replacing ones.
yeah, and one's more important than the other ones are replaced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I like
so
that.
these are just gonna be little
Yeah.
letters next to it. It's, I didn't know if you were gonna put it in a category of, so it's its own separate category, but you're saying they were just little definitions.
Yeah.
Well, what I'd like to do is have, now that we're talking about this, and we talked about the other phases and stages, is have a checkbox for each of these so that it can be created, a document could be, a report could be created that lists all recurring claims. So once we have it as a checkbox, it can be searched on that. The database can then create a report based on that. So that I do like the idea.
Yeah, because one of the things that I don't love is how they fill out their forms. I mean, it's
Right.
awfully vague. I mean, I feel like I'm like, wow, this isn't taking, even though they might go get a quote and that's more detailed and we can look at that, some other document, but some other people didn't do that.
Mhm.
You know, they just wrote it down by hand and it was like, you know, let's just talk about it. Oh. So I like that maybe they'll have a few more codes to put in to define what they're doing, even if, and I'm okay if they were just saying they needed a little information.
Well, if everybody is required to fill out these things, then there's no consistency across all the application, items, right?
Yeah.
In terms of the information that's helpful.
I
But
also,
I feel like on the form, they need to make some of that stuff.
I think when they make that,
They don't, I don't know if they always want to do that.
well, when they make that selection, it's gonna force them to think a little bit deeper into
Yeah.
why are they
Yeah.
asking for this? And then they're gonna give us more information in the backup to explain, oh, that's why we need this.
And if they don't provide that information, we tell them we need that information before we consider the
It's an
request.
incomplete request.
Because, and to your
Yes.
point in the past, there's been just placeholder and there's, you
Right.
click on it and it's a blank document.
And
And
is the finance department gonna weigh in on this before it gets to us anymore, or that's
In two
obviously
ways.
not been happening?
Yeah, in two ways. One, which, you know, the intention of the database, the intention was to help eliminate repetitive human input, also to eliminate human error, because you could have information that could be repeated in different ways by virtue of the use of the database reporting and templates. The other aspect was obviously standardizing, but also trying to have certain fields that were required to be completed in order for the request to move forward. As a software development, with respect to the software development, that was just too difficult to do. What's going to happen? This is just history. What Sue has volunteered and finance has volunteered is that Sue will be the primary on inputting this information out. I don't believe she's actually going to be inputting it. She's going to be relying on the department heads, and then she's going to kind of standardize and normalize it so that it speaks our language by virtue of it's complete.
Yeah.
And we have a better picture of what it is the department head is looking for. So she'll be that really integral link between the department heads and the software, and by virtue of that, capital program.
So is she gonna be the only one in the finance department that sees all the requests?
That's the second part of your question. I don't know what's going to happen is once Sue is done processing them to the level that we anticipate or expect, and finance, same vocabulary. They will review the request and then they do a Rory just as we do, including the town manager or one of the assistant managers. So there's a parallel track in utilizing the software. So that's what it's.
Cool.
Yeah. And then they kind of rank them and then they look at them to make a determination of what they want to advance. You know, because
Before
they're,
it comes to us.
yeah, because their perception of these criterion are, I would say, more than slightly different than our own. Because they have a different set of motivations. That's,
Agreed.
As in who's gonna do it,
yeah, well, a variety. of
as a
things.
big piece of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and they're looking at it from
Do we
a-
have the
We're the both
human
of you.
bandwidth?
Okay, those were, I'm just thinking out loud, these were not forwarded to the finance department because they're internal. This group of orange are items that'll come up in our process, except for now adding on the SIP request form, a field for the department head of the finance department to record whether it's phased, recurring, supplemental, or obsolete. Truth be told, 99% sure there is a checkbox for phased and supplemental. So this shouldn't be a big lift and it will be helpful for us to have it. Just thinking out loud because I want to understand what my next process is when I go home. Brian and Sue are at a finance convention, I think, this week, so I'll get it done with the weekend. Okay, that brings us to,
It should be AI.
yeah.
Mhm.
Chat.
It'll learn that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to start designing homes for agencies. No offense to Danny Architects.
No, we.
State funding covered. Okay, so basically that's it. We could have a vote to accept these formally. Subject to any minor modifications that are required after review, if you're all comfortable with that. Or if somebody isn't comfortable with that. And Barry, I apologize. If you've had your hand up at all, I've got the spreadsheet in front of me. Okay,
I mean, to me, it feels like we're creating a common language between the department heads and this board in terms of this is what we need to effectively evaluate what you want. And
simplifying the existing one, I think, a little bit, and helping to also at the same time making it more meaningful. But yeah, I think a common, leveraging a common language so that it benefits the whole process. Do we have a motion to accept these subject to minor modifications? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Again, Barry, as I mentioned at the beginning, just appreciate everybody's involvement. I think these are some really great changes and they'll be helpful to our process.
It's the first time we've really done a round of these changes. Significant.
At this
This
level,
is-
Yeah, right.
This
I
is,
can't remember
it
any
is,
other.
yeah, no, nothing like this.
Yeah, and minor tweaks and stuff, but originally, I think the second year we did some line item modification to the text.
I mean, it's possible we're here again, we we have to wait and see how it.
Yeah.
Presents itself.
I think
Okay.
5
You
or
know?
6 years though.
Yeah, I mean, there might be just, I don't know, some.
So that's that one.
as opposed to we just pull $5 million out of a hat and put that price tag on everything.
Yeah,
Oh, that does
Nice and easy.
we're gonna have some interesting discussions about that stuff later. Not today
it.
in our process.
I agree.
Okay, so this is
That particular
I'm gonna chunk this into some segments. This group here is our meetings through June 20th. You'll note that June 20th, we do not have a meeting because we've accomplished
Are we just on scheduling for future meetings? Is that what's left?
yes, yeah.
Then I'm gonna hit the road.
Oh,
Madam
somebody doesn't
Chairman.
need to
It's nice to see.
chime in on that.
Nope,
Nope. So we're gonna get the next group is a little later start than.
been fun, you guys.
I hope you're right.
Rob, thank you so much.
I am.
We appreciate it.
Well, thanks for the education. It will certainly help me as I continue on the board to have been part of this process.
Cross
So,
training right there.
We'll miss you.
yeah.
Could you be on a call tomorrow morning? That's all it was for. I can't.
I don't think we have one.
But we're not gonna be till July. Oh.
Yeah. So, we had finance had hoped to move things up a little bit, but, due to the appointment schedules, the different boards, we have gating items. The gating item being we need, well, here we are through June 3rd, 20th. The next one is a reminder to, Select Board FinCom and NPDEC to please assign their respective Capcom rep honored by Tuesday, July 23rd. That's this year, and inform town admin so that we can begin to get our new members enrolled, get them online, and so on and so forth. Where that leaves us is select board.
Wait, maybe we're sure.
Yeah. Well, select board has made their appointment. FinCom is making their appointment July 9th. And PDDC is a little later, but we're respecting their process. Their annual meeting is July 22nd, which isn't always July 22nd. It's a particular. Barry, is it a Monday or whatever day it is of the month? So they're regularly. I'm sorry.
It's a Monday.
Okay, so they're
It's not the annual meeting.
And what are your NPDC meetings, just for people's general knowledge? The third Monday of the month or something like that?
It usually is the third Monday. Sometimes it'll float to the fourth, depending upon what's going on.
Right, if there's a longer.
Pretty consistent.
Okay. What time are your meetings?
They are at 5 o'clock.
Okay. So with respect to our schedule, we need a member appointed, and we need a member. We then, after that point, we need Plum to input their information, give them a login and a password, and then we need to get them here with the group for revaluations of the line items, so that we have an accurate, up-to-date team score. This year, we'll have at least one new member, perhaps two. If we didn't have new members, we probably wouldn't do an update, but we won't. So that's the process. As a result of the appointment schedule, our schedule moved back from this process beginning July 11th to beginning July 24th. I'll be doing a little bit.
That's for issues here.
Yeah.
Oh, the schedule, do we not have anything to review before the special town meeting?
No,
No.
town's not putting forth any.
Okay, but I thought, I went for sure.
Been decided.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
99.9%.
Okay. Okay.
See you guys.
See ya.
Let's see.
So you jumped into the school budget. Wait a minute. We have one meeting.
Okay, so this is. Can you guys still see that on the big screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm just going through this quickly. Obviously, jump in if you have any questions. So, gating item is the 23rd of July, which is to have all our members identified. On the 24th, I reach out to them, welcome them, give them a schedule. The 25th, Plum will honor by the 25th, which is a very short turnaround. Plum will need to update membership, including the great password access, providing members their login information, which will be through the finance department. The 25th, we jump right in, which is a mandatory meeting. We quickly cover our process, see if there's anything we want to change for the upcoming budget season. Make liaison assignments. This year, I'm going to request respectfully, of course, that the department heads initiate scheduling. I think what happened last year, it was kind of left to members to reach out to the department head. I think it's incumbent upon us as volunteers to kind of coordinate with the department head. And of course, the department head knows their schedule better than any of us. So I think what we're going to ask is, once the liaisons are assigned, a quick email goes out to the department head and says, hey, these are Capcom liaisons. Please reach out to them to schedule before your presentation.
Stephen,
Yeah, please.
that sometimes seems a little tight. By the time we know what we're doing, we're almost meeting with them like in 4 days. So is there any way to like figure that out or
Yeah.
I don't
So-
know, get to it before like
Yep.
summer? ends?
So July 25th is the first opportunity because we won't know all of our appointed members until the 23rd. So July 25th, we'll do the liaison assignments. Our first department head meeting is August 15th. That's school and natural resources. The next, which I'm going to cover in a minute, is fire, police, and marine. So those are the two that are potentially tight. One is a 3-week window, 2.5-week window. One is a 3.5 week. So those would be the two that are, those would be the groups that are kind of tight. We're meeting the first Thursday after, we won't know our appointment members till Tuesday, formally, of the 23rd, and we're meeting Thursday the 25th, which is as tight as we can make it. Point well taken, though, it's important. On the 25th, it's a mandatory meeting because we're going to cover a lot of stuff, including an annual house. We want to have the new members involved, have discussion about the line items, how different members use the Rory and my Rory, which might make it easier for everyone to understand how to search it more efficiently, or search it in a way that's more your style that you did in relation to. So that'll be the meeting on the 25th. That'll be an important meeting. August 1st and August 8th will be our Rory revaluations. Those are mandatory meetings. The 13th will be a flex date for Rory revaluations if we need it. Don't think we will. That might become mandatory. So please note these. I'll leave those in bold and it's distributed. We'll wrap up. One will update its software for our meeting with school and natural resources on the 15th. And to the extent possible, I'd like us to complete Rory's during the meetings. I know it's come up a bunch of years, different people say, gee, we really should do it that way. And we kind of want to scoot out of here, but it makes it a lot, I think it makes it a lot more difficult for us on the tail ends. Thoughts?
I have a thought about something else, but
Okay. Why don't we hit it before? Well, let's see if anyone has thoughts on the Rory's completion and then we'll go from there. Yeah,
I guess my thought is, can we discuss it there at that moment then? So
Yeah.
why would I rank it if we haven't discussed it? I mean, you guys might influence how I rank something, and I think
yeah, I
that
like
usually
that.
is for the better, so.
Good point.
Are we saying we're gonna talk about it that day and rank it that day? I'm not saying we need to have 4 hours discussion about it. I'm not trying to put one, but.
Sure.
I like that moment.
You don't
No,
want me in here.
I'm sorry, I've been there the last few weeks, but I knew you guys could help.
no, but no, it's, I mean, it's 100%.
Can I
When we talk about something,
Yeah, it's,
I'll hear information from other people and then I'm like, oh, sure, that should get a better ranking from me.
Can I mold that a little bit? So the idea with the Rory initially anyways, is to have your kind of virgin perception input. Now, there is information I think we could share. Like for instance, Christy is the, it's school and Christy is the liaison. You might say, hey, this came up during our walkthrough after the school presentation, after there's another department in here. We, reserve 15 or 20 minutes to ourselves. And the liaisons may pipe in at that point to kind of broaden out our information and have questions asked. We can also bounce off of each other. Did I hear them say this or did they say that? So that type of information sharing, I think, is really important. I would ask that we reserve the kind of pros and cons discussion till when we do the up-down.
That's fine.
Yeah, just to delineate those. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, as long as
I think that's what
If I may.
here
They do
anyway.
it last year and he's.
well, the only, if I,
Which I'm true.
the only thing with some sort of reflection after what you're referring to, sort of a little talk, maybe 10-15 minutes. I don't think that whatever we talk about is going to result in all of us scoring exactly the same way. So but I do think that what it does is it keeps that item and the discussion in our heads instead of it just being in the ether. And I think it does present itself to have a little benefit of just, we might say nothing. You know, we might say, that's a good presentation. Let's, you know, the Rorys will speak for themselves. But I think that, I think for a committee, just to discuss what we've just heard, I think it would allow us to understand the group better and understand the request better.
I totally agree. I think we're saying the same thing in different ways. I'm just saying when it comes to the subjectivity of, well, I really think this is an important one because of X, Y, and Z. No, I know. I'm just differentiating for the sake of, this is the opportunity to differentiate. That type of discussion would be safer later, because that type of discussion revolves obviously around the particular request, but it also falls into the group of the requests. And when we're reviewing them after we've ranked them based on an informed discussion after the department heads are here, I think it makes the system better. So I support the comments you're making. I think we proceed that way. And I just wanted to clarify that we want to try and stay away from the type of discussions that are, well, this is a good idea because of this, or this is a good idea because of that. Those are really more the final ranking. Where do they rank individually and then against the other?
I think there's no better time to talk about it than right after, to sort of help us all sort of ponder it, pro or con. Peter and I, we might have a totally different thought about something, but I don't know.
To that point, then I would, so if you thought that was going to go on a while, I would suggest, like, you got the airport alone, there was something, issues, and like town admin, I feel like there's just take that long, and you know what I mean? Maybe it's
right.
Have a reorder. Like the school, they always have like their budget is pretty predictable, and we usually kind of know what they're going to do. And
yeah, I think the longer after a presentation we don't talk about it, the more you will lose details from that presentation.
So this is what I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Let me noodle.
That's my thought. Yeah.
Because this is the concern I have. One is that I agree with a lot of what you're saying. My concern with respect to managing the meeting process is that I don't want to create redundant work for us when we do the up downs. And I think that there may be a tendency for that to happen because we're going to talk about the requests again. And at that point, we're going to want to emphasize what we think are kind of qualitative arguments. So let me just think it through. I'm not, I don't disagree with you that it'd be good to get this stuff done. Ideally, we would rank them. We would have an in-depth discussion. We would rank them. We have a flex date every 5 departments. We could get feedback from the department heads if we had any open issues. At that meeting, we could close it out. If we were to do that, and we weren't going to get into kind of reevaluation of the valuations when we do the up down, then we would have time in our schedule. My concern is that we're going to be pressed for time because
we always are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to that point, I know one of the issues that we have, and this does affect my Rory personally, is I don't know where the money's coming. That often we're not told that until really late. So if we have to just make that Rory, and then maybe that's it, it doesn't matter where it's coming from, and that's none of my business, maybe. But
no, don't think that. Funding sources is a big part of what we do. We haven't developed it.
So that tripped me up last year when I tried to get early. But I'm happy to still rank it and give you a feel for where I am on it, and then maybe that migrates later.
Like we discussed that if it was a grant and you needed this matching grant money, we need to know that.
Yeah, right.
As an example. If you have enterprise money available to offset this, we need to know that.
Right.
Yeah. Which is one of the reasons we do a preliminary up down and not a final up down. So we do it early to broadcast, but we don't know the funding sources. And not having the funding sources pinned down also relates to how our report works.
Look at you, Stephen, looking for that. Yeah.
What?
Looking for those little components that are going
to you gotta keep this in mind, because otherwise we promise something we can't go.
No, I know it.
I'm doing a snapshot, and then if it's like 6 weeks, 8 weeks later, and I look back and think, gosh, why didn't I rank it up that way? Something else came up, fine, I'll change it.
Yeah, one of the things we put in for is a save and a submit button, or to those effect. So you can save your work, and it's not finalized until you hit submit. And then obviously be able to search.
That is gonna be,
I'm
that's
hopeful.
gonna be messy. I guarantee there's gonna be, no, we're not gonna know where we are.
Well,
It's gotta be, I don't know.
ideally,
That's
there's
a
gonna
tough
be a report that tells me who's saved, who's submitted. You guys have done.
Yeah, you had that last year. I knew which ones I hadn't done.
The problem with that is you literally have to go through
No.
and dissect out the information and aggregate it into another, it's such a PIA, a technical capital document.
That could maybe be one of your acronyms for the new software.
Yeah,
even.
I just have
Christie, please.
a comment outside of what we're talking about. I was gonna see if we could request.
Don't.
Full. I do like donuts. Full complete vehicle inventory for each department. I think it would be helpful for us to it's difficult when you're looking at, we need 3 vehicles. We have no idea. But I think for us to, but I'd like it sooner than later, to say, okay, DPW, this is all your vehicles. And this is what you're trying to replace. But I also would love to go further. I don't want to create more work for the department heads, but I'd like to know, and we talked about, a few of you might have not been here, maybe us, but we talked about when a new vehicle is requested to, maybe start asking, what's your intended life cycle of this vehicle? When can you hold us accountable for getting a new one? Because, this is when the vehicle is supposed to expire, whether it's legally like an ambulance or not, like a Ranger. But how long, when you buy this vehicle, we don't hold them to it. And I think that they may request sooner than when they really, need it. Obviously things break down, but
Yeah, and not all.
but I would like to have, I'd love to have an inventory for each department, even if it's one vehicle, to know when we're reviewing vehicles, we can pull up that sheet and just say, okay, well, this is what they have. This is what they're working with.
And if it's a living document, I mean, if they had date of acquisition, expected useful life,
True.
remaining useful life,
100%.
and if we looked at that every year, we'd have a pretty good sense of what they need this year, what might they need next year.
Yes.
What year?
True, but I mean, like, you would imagine that if they were able to get a baseline, then every year was
Yeah.
updated, it'd be awesome.
Totally. And I think with that, after 2 or 3 years, we'd feel a lot more comfortable about vehicle inventory and requests. I think we'd have a better idea knowing what we're doing.
Right now, to your point, we're kind
It's
of
a
swimming in the dark.
yeah.
So that actually, that is a granular aspect of one of our longstanding recommendations. And that's their capital asset needs assessment, which basically would go through used vehicles as an example. And it would itemize, it would inventory all relevant aspects. Capital program, we're not reinventing the wheel. There's a variety of topics and categories that are part of knowing useful life, whether it's the useful life of the machine, a variety of those aspects would be under the capital asset needs assessment. That would then inform a report, for instance, vehicles, and you could spit it out and it could be attached. We could either access it in the database. More likely, it's going to be what you're talking about, which I think is on a department level basis, vehicles, let's start with vehicles, are inventory. There's some specific criteria that capital program committee would like to know. To get into it now, but I'm gonna get into it in a moment. And that gets attached each year, updated to their requests if they have vehicle requests.
Yeah,
Now,
that makes sense.
what I would ask is take the comments you just made, put them into a quick email to me. That's all public record. Add the useful life, add the different categories you would like. We can talk about it briefly. Give it to me. I'll forward it to Sue with my own comments that I've already said here in public before.
Yeah.
And we'll try and get that implemented as part of supplemental data, at least for the large departments.
Yeah.
The DPW, the
Police.
fire, and police. Yeah. Go ahead.
I think if you did an Excel spreadsheet as a template and gave it to him, with the columns in it that you'd like to see.
Yeah, that'd be
And
perfect.
then it'll have it.
Yeah.
Better than narrative.
Jill, you gotta run. Sorry.
Yeah, I gotta go on to in a second.
Okay, let's run through this a little bit more, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Next door.
In a few weeks.
Yes, but
Jill, you're coming back?
Oh.
You're coming back?
Next week, to the committee?
Big time, yeah.
I'm planning to.
Good.
We don't know what's happening on the FinCom yet, because I think Denise will stay on as chair through the special town meeting.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? So I don't know what's happening on.
Well, we hope to have you back.
But I learned all that, so now maybe I can. Thank you.
see you.
Okay. I just want to run through this quickly in case there are any issues. Also, you guys need that because we're gonna go. Let's see.
Back to the Rory conversation when we get them done. I mean, granted, we all put it off till the very end of the year typically, and we all, fire through them right before we need our up down. So there's nothing in the past requiring us to hold off, right? I mean, anybody that wanted to do it while it's fresh in their mind could, in effect, do it before they leave the room, right after they leave the room.
Yeah,
That's someone that's well organized and
just
timely.
So being forced to do it before we leave the room.
Yeah,
so I think that being forced to do it before we leave the room has a lot of value because at least you've got something down on paper. It is fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
We do have the opportunity.
Assuming it can be updated at a later point.
For information.
And assuming all the
does.
information has been provided,
Right.
because there's probably,
Yeah.
what would you say, 20%, we asked for more information,
it does, but if we're in meeting, you're missing something that's being said, whether it's a department head or you or a member. It's not like we have study hall after meeting.
Right.
So it's
Study hall will be at the end of the meeting.
correct.
Got it.
I can
that word in about 40 years.
I know.
study hall.
Yeah.
So I'm confused. You're still advocating that we have.
No, what I'm saying is, Peter's spot on with saying, it's nice and fresh. It would be great if we could all just do it, after a meeting. I'm not, although I've done it, I'm not a huge fan of doing things during a meeting because you're missing something that's being said. And I think half your attention's with you and half your attention's doing the Rory.
Right. So the idea is that we do it during a meeting after the department head presentations have concluded. We have capital program committee time specifically for filling information from the liaison and then completing our Rorys.
Ideally, Rory, if you know what you're doing, takes a minute and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
So that would be at the same meeting that the department head is there for.
Yeah,
You're saying,
exactly.
DPW comes in, makes their presentation, they leave, we say, hey, is there anybody have any other questions between us on it?
Yeah.
Yes, no, maybe, talk for 5 or 10, and then we all bang out our Rory's.
Right.
Usually we're running out of time.
Well, that's where.
I mean, Stephen, really, that is one way to say we are all getting our Rorys done when you want them to be done.
I wish that we could figure out how to do that in the context
it's-
of do we have time to do it?
But it's
Because
hard.
Well, we're
It's hard.
punched on schedule. That's a problem for us, but
it's a great idea because we could all sit there together
Yeah.
and talk, and talk about maybe a question that you might have about.
Well, that's Stephen doesn't want that. I don't say it. I don't want to say.
Or you don't want that.
Well, it's
No. No,
having
he wants
questions-
our Rorys.
Yeah.
He wants our Rorys to be more independent. So, well, I didn't mean to say it that way. He wants them to be independent. He doesn't want that.
I think the clarification
You know.
needs to be made that there's a difference between having questions amongst ourselves with regards to the actual aspects of the request and then having the conversation of whether or not individuals like or don't like the request.
Right, and that's all I'm
Is what you don't want.
Yeah.
Because the like or don't like should
That
come.
happens later in the process.
Florian's not gonna be useful to do.
Yeah, it's later in the
Yeah.
process, in part because that's when we're subjectively weighing in on the merits of a particular one versus ranking it objectively by the criteria. And two, we don't know the funding mechanisms till later. So we could have a long discussion, let's just an example about a capital asset, and then we find out that the funding mechanism is a 2.5 override. And we spent an hour and a half over a contentious topic that is times 7 people, we're talking almost 11
Now it's
person
gonna fail at
hours
the ballot.
down the toilet. And because we decided individually in later discussion, when we understood the funding mechanism, that we didn't feel it was appropriate to recommend this, despite the high score, because we didn't feel it's appropriate to recommend it as an override. So I prefer to have those kind of qualitative discussions of the subjectivity at the tail end, because it's more relevant to other topics we're discussing at the tail end. You can mischaracterize that if you want.
No, I got you. Listen, yeah.
But to Howard's point, I mean, we already run 2 hours at some meetings, you know, just listening to department heads. So then maybe 2 department heads, 1 meeting, hour each. Then the idea of tacking another 10 to 15 to discuss for each, do a Rory's for each, will be interesting.
So I'm gonna use my experience on a commission here and I think we could probably come into this meeting and have the department heads in and out the door, and depending on
20 minutes,
workload, 10 or 15 minutes. It's about previewing and understanding the information in advance. Now, in everyone's defense, we have had incompletes, so it makes it more difficult to sit down, work up the muster to say, yeah, I'm gonna do it, and get through previewing them, because you start and then you're like, oh, I don't have this, and then what are you doing? You're making notes on the preview that you could just do during the meeting. So Sue has assured me that there will be complete SIP request forms and complete supplemental information. And I think we're in a position where we could, if we preview accordingly, we could, well.
next door, you can go this way.
Yeah, that's all right. We don't mind. I think we could be in a position where we wrap up a department head in 15 minutes. It's gonna come down to us being disciplined, subject to the data being compiled. All good points. Howard, ultimately what drives our schedule is getting the report out at this point in mid-January. That I think is not a function of town meeting so much, because town meeting, the warrant doesn't get printed until, you know, the end of March. It's more a function of what the town manager and the finance department have on their schedule otherwise, which I respect. But that's what drives our schedule.
I think we did a good job turning it very fast.
I think we do a lot of work in a very short period of time, and I don't think anyone's critical of us.
No, I mean, the report. I mean, I think we turned the report.
I think you guys did a great job.
Really quick, and I think that we could do it again.
Yeah.
Peter knows exactly what he's doing this year. Report everything.
Oh, are you volunteering?
Oh yeah, last year I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah,
I'm saying.
Maybe we should do 2-year stints on that.
Yeah, that was my second year, I believe. So that must be good. Yeah, that was your first, though, right?
That is low.
Yeah, there we go.
That's low.
You know, the longer you do it, the easier.
Wait,
That's
I
what
thought
they
it
Is
say.
that what it is?
That's what they
is that
say.
why we've been in here for
That's
like
what they
8 years
say.
now? Is that what that
Wasn't
is?
the first year Christy, Jill, and Richard,
Yes.
and then you and Howard came on last year?
No, I don't know.
That-
I don't know if I remember it that way. Yeah,
a
weird.
little bit.
Must be all
All
the
right,
darn.
we're not gonna do that assignment today. Let's get the schedule out of the way so you guys can.
I gotta go, yeah.
All right, successively, we are gonna have, quick order, we're gonna have 5 departments: school, natural resources, fire, police, and marine, flex date placeholder. We can catch up on Rory's, any open items. These will each be Thursday meetings, beginning our review schedule August 15th.
I might be away the last 2 weeks in August.
That will be, one will be a flex play
Can we zoom in?
placeholder. September, we're gonna do Ireland home, ice
Helmet
and
mic?
water.
On the helmet microphone?
Guys, just sorry, I want to run through this. Airport, town admin. Sometimes town admin gets bumped to a later slot. Again, there's basically 5 or the equivalent of 5 average departments. We'll do a flex date placeholder, we've already catched up. Some other minor items. Then we've got another slot. This is going to be the home run, final 11th inning. Will be a little more intense. DPW transportation, facilities the next Thursday, solid waste, and any other DPW, then sewer and stormwater. Then we'll do a preliminary. This actually needs to be a flex day placeholder. Okay, that's in there. Emphasize that for myself. We'll do a preliminary discussion of funding sources. We may have a joint meeting with the select board and the FinCom. Their review. In November, we jump in with Rory up-downs. And before Thanksgiving, providing a preliminary up-down recommendation to town admin for the select board finance committee. December is all about, let's see, town admin, any updates from them on request review, citizen articles, select board town admin sponsored articles. Here I want to key in at some point, we need to get real clear on things. I was not personally, it was a difficult situation at town meeting, have people come up to me and ask me what the increase in the Western Ave project was for. I had no idea.
In the what?
For the 31 Western Ave project.
Western Ave.
As a project, a member of the capital program committee, and I happen to be the chair. It was kind of unfortunate not to be able to even know that was happening. Beyond, reading it in the article.
That's all decision making after.
Yeah, I think, at some point we just want to be involved. We don't necessarily need to weigh in for a new recommendation, but we would get some type of just a quick email blast. This is what's going on. This is the dollar numbers. It's a capital asset. We're required to review anything over $50,000 and make a recommendation at town meeting.
Extremely fair to ask for just next any alteration of a recommendation.
Yeah.
On why, just so it helps us. I mean, your example is perfect.
Yeah, not to be pointed, but to make a point.
Yeah, just, you're gonna change it.
Keep us in the loop.
Just keep it in the loop. So
no big deal. Keep us in the loop. Yeah. So that's I have a little discussion on that. January is going to be about writing the report and get it to the select board. That's our schedule. This is the draft. It's subject to review. I want to review with finance, and finance will review with town manager. Basically what it does is it advances some of our work to the extent we can advance it, and everything else has been moved up a little bit or it stayed the same. I'd ask for, again, this will be distributed. I'd ask for a motion to accept the schedule, subject to minor modifications that may be required.
So moved.
You're comfortable with that?
I mean, it usually changes a little bit throughout the year, so looks like a good framework.
Okay. Let's see, Peter, any motion?
Aye.
Christie?
Aye.
Howard? And Barry?
Aye.
Okay, thanks so much. Let me just take a quick look at our agenda, make sure I haven't missed something. The next meeting is not Thursday, June 20th. That has been canceled. We may have a work group meeting if we need to regarding enhancements. An email will go out subject to our ability to actually conduct that meeting. We did appoint the concept of a work group today. Our next meeting will be July 25th. That is a mandatory meeting, folks. We're going to jump into it with both feet. Okay.
Head first.
I will be at that one.
I'm gonna excuse myself. See you guys in a few weeks.
How about a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
On your motion, Howard?
Yes.
Christie?
Aye.
TJ?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
Thank you,
Barry.
everybody.
Right.
Great work.
See you, Barry.
That
See you,
came together
Bear.
really well. Good
Take
job.
care, everyone.
Great job. Yes,
See you
sir.
guys.
Hey,
Yeah,
Howard.
Howard.
Drive safe.
We should all walk through their meeting now.